Ladies and gentlemen, and then welcome to Speakers Institute Corp Showcase. Wow, isn't it nice to be here in person in a setting? I know for some of you, you were speaking when you first came in and it was like, wow, it's been a while since we've actually been able to be in a room with other people. And so thank you to all of you for coming along this evening, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here. My name is Craig John, CEO and Managing Partner of Speakers Institute Corporate, and it's my pleasure to host tonight's evening where we're going to showcase Speakers Institute Corporate and our team here. My business partner over this side, Sam Cawthorn, and I have just flown in from Sydney, from Australia, and we've been here the last week, and we've got another week here, which is really, really exciting. We are filming tonight. There were a whole lot of people that would have loved to have come along. So a little bit about Speakers Institute Corporate. We inspire great leaders through solving ineffective communication and decision making. We do that through leadership, well-being, communication and organizational design training, from small, medium enterprises through to Fortune 100 companies around the world. We have a team of 35 based in 5 different countries, and we've been delivering events beautifully over the last 2 years with COVID, allowing us to be able to reach a lot more people globally, from places like Morocco through to Lithuania, India, here in Singapore and around Asia through to New York as well. So it's been a wonderful environment over the last 2 years for us to be able to go in and upgrade the most powerful skills in the world of communication, and obviously help people with their leadership and well-being. So it's a real pleasure to have you. Now, as leaders, and you are all leaders in this room, it's so important that we think about the gravity of our leadership. As leaders, we can either create a gravitational pull where people want to come in towards us and be a part of us and be with us and belong, or we can create a gravitational push where we push people away through the way that we lead, the way that we communicate. And so it's so important, especially in the year 2022, that we're thinking about how can we create that place of belonging. In where I come from in New Zealand, and you may have seen and probably hear from the accent, we have a word called whakapapa. And whakapapa is a word that means an unbroken chain from our ancestors right through to now and the future. And as leaders, it's important that we create a place of belonging, that whakapapa, and we think about that unbroken chain being every single person that's been in the company or team you've worked with in the past, to those who are here now. The DNA is every single person and what they bring to create that collective culture. And so we have such power as leaders in society, whether it be community groups or whether we're in education institutions, or whether we are leading Fortune 100 companies, or we may even just be leading small teams in our company as an HR leader or something similar, that we are conscious of it. And I want you to and welcome Giddy, it's lovely to have you here, thanks for coming along, to think about here with the gravity of leadership that we have. When we look at leaders, we need to have this relentless approach. Okay, we can't just cruise through and hope that things are going to happen. We need to be relentless in our pursuit of something. But we need to make sure we do that without being ruthless and reckless. Let me give you an example. Who followed the Australian Open tennis? Anyone watch the tennis? A couple of you. All right, but I'm sure you know the likes of Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal and Novak Djokovic. Okay, if we think about all three of them, they're relentless in their pursuit of excellence. They all had won 20 Grand Slam titles, and obviously Rafa Nadal has now got one up on them. But if we think about the 3 different personalities there, we've got someone like a Roger Federer who is relentless, but he's not ruthless or reckless in the way that he goes about his business. He was when he was younger. He used to throw tennis rackets and throw tantrums, and he used to be very ruthless and at times very reckless in his own regard or with other people. But then you have someone like Rafa Nadal, who is very relentless, but at times is quite ruthless in the way that he always has a routine that kind of annoys people. But he's not reckless. He's not a reckless. But then we have Novak Djokovic, right? Very relentless. Like when it comes to high performers and his attention to detail to be the best in the world, he has amazing teams. He has caravans that follow him with ice baths and all sorts of people that are ensuring that he's at his best game. But he is ruthless. He doesn't care whose toes he steps on, which government he annoys, which people he puts offside. And at times, very reckless in his disregard for humanity and for other people and how his behavior may affect other people. Now we also see this type of thing in business. If we think about Indra Nooyi, the former PepsiCo CEO and who is now on the board of Amazon, extremely relentless in her pursuit of bringing people together, that place of belonging and connectedness. I'm not sure if you know, but she makes a point of, when she was working there, to go and visit the parents of every single executive. She wanted to go and meet them and thank them for the beautiful children that they had helped grow and nurture and develop to be up there working in PepsiCo. But she never showed a sign of ruthlessness or recklessness. However, if we look at someone like, Steve Jobs, if you think about and you hear some of the stories, he was extremely relentless, ruthless in his approach, and at times, it's not written in the books, but if you actually know the history, he is actually very, very reckless with his teams. Okay, so there's different examples, but my question to you is, how can you be relentless in your pursuit of excellence, in your pursuit of giving value to the world, in your pursuit of ensuring that your team are able to produce great things without going past that and being ruthless and reckless? Now, if we look at these things here, relentless is that non-stop commitment. It's that finding that passion, that deep desire to go further and make sure that we can produce the results, that we can make a difference. If we look at ruthless, it's about taking no prisoners when we are on our relentless. All right, it's that ruthless approach that we will do everything, and even in yourself. If we think about relentless is like that place of making sure that we show up, that we are recovered, that we bring the energy we need, that we are high performing, but we don't go to that ruthless aspect of working 80 hours a week for 302 days straight, and like me, flatlining in hospital. Because you're no good to anyone when you're not there. You're no good to anyone when you're tired and fatigued and stressed and reactive rather than proactive. And in that setting, you start to take, it's kind of that approach of, I'm going 100 miles an hour, come along with me, otherwise you're on your own. To then the recklessness of being careless of the consequences. So you'll do whatever it takes to achieve those goals, but you don't care if the risks go beyond what is legal or what is appropriate. So the world is shifting. And I'd like you to think about how much of the gravity of your leadership you're able to impart on the people you're with to create a gravitational pull that makes a difference. I want you to think as leaders here and in your roles about how you manage your energy. How do you manage your energy on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, and even career basis? Are you someone that just keeps going, and then when Christmas comes, you kind of fall in a heap and probably end up sick like we do? Or are you someone that thinks about how can you manage energy over time and think about scheduling your recovery so you can perform at your best? One of my most amazing friends, her name is Anne Gripper, she does something incredible. She has planned her role so that she goes into a role for 5 years, has a whole entire year off, has done it 4 cycles now. One of them, she did an MBA in Switzerland. Another one, she cycled the world. Another year off, she started a charitable foundation. Very clever. It means every time she turns up for a new role, she's at her best. She brings her best energy, her best self for that team for 5 years, and then is quite happily to pass over the keys to someone else and take a break and recharge. Now, we may not always be in that position, but what if you set the intention of 5 years' time, I'm going to have a year off? I bet you'll be able to create an environment and create enough money and resources to be able to do that. You'll also then build out your team so they have the capability to be able to perform rather than relying on you as a leader in your role, in your position. I want you to, I'm just going to go a little bit micro here with energy management as a leader. Now, when you look at people in the room and you think, oh, that person is so calm and composed and they seem to have some aura and charisma about them, what is it? What is that thing that gives them the greatest influence in the room, the greatest power? They're the people that walk in and people automatically see them and sit up and take notice. It's a really interesting thing. What is it? One of those key things I'm going to show you now is all about how you can lower your pulse. Now, if you put heart rate monitors on a group of people in a room who are making decisions, in most cases, the person, unless they have a medical issue, the person who is able to have the greatest influence and control the power of that room is the one who has the lowest heart rate. So how can you lower your pulse? Which then means your body, your hormones are able to calm down, your stress is able to calm down. How can you do that? Does anyone take a guess? How do you easily lower your pulse? Breathing.
I was going to say wine.
Wine's pretty good too. Wine's pretty good too. So by the power of our breathing and our breath control, we can lower our pulse. And what happens in the room is if I start breathing high and really fast, you're all going to get anxious. You're all going to start breathing faster. But if I lower my breath rate and go deeper through my belly button, you're all going to start to calm down. And the result of that is your pulse lowers. And as a result of that, you get to manage the energy of yourself, the people you're communicating with, and the energy in the room. That is one easy step to have greater influence and calming ability on your team. I want you to think about how you can manage your energy and the gravity of your leadership in 2022. I'm now going to invite one of my team members up. And we're going to have a conversation. We're going to change things up a little bit. And we need to think about what is the future of business. What is one aspect of the future of business? I want to talk a little bit about that. You may have heard Metaverse and you're probably wondering what it is. Some of you will know exactly what it is. Some of you are already using that really well. But I'd like to bring up the CEO of Emporium, and he does a lot of work in artificial intelligence, is a Speakers Institute facilitator, and a really, really good friend. So Tony Tan, please welcome to the stage. Yeah. Come on up.
I'm going to breathe first to lower my pulse.
Tony, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Craig.
Have a seat.
Thanks.
Now Tony's quite heavily involved in meditation, so breathing, he's a bit of a master at that, which is good.
Thank you, and I certainly agree with what you say, right? Instead of reacting, you are responding through the control of your breath. Absolutely important.
Yeah, great. Now Tony, based here in Singapore, and you've got companies that do a lot of work in things like artificial intelligence. But before we go into that, I would really like to know, over the past 2 years, there's been a lot of shift and change. What do you think, what have you noticed has been the greatest leap for the future of business globally?
I think if you look at business today, every business is a digital business. I think we have to agree with that. I think there's someone in the room that's from Microsoft. So I'm going to say, be very careful what I say here, right? So every company is a digital company today. So if we are not harnessing the power of digital disruptions, the power of digital innovation, we'll find that we are missing out and we're not able to compete and be ahead of the curve. So if you ask me the last 2 years, what is really important is digital adoption for all businesses today.
Yeah, great. And so obviously we've started to see that shift to artificial intelligence, then to virtual reality and augmented reality. But, over the last year, we've really heard this word about the metaverse. And, for a lot of people, people think Facebook, right? They changed the name to Meta, but it was happening long before then. And I think Microsoft were doing quite a bit of work in the metaverse even well before Facebook were. So, for those who may not know so much about it, what for you is the metaverse?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, Craig. Thanks for asking. The word metaverse itself is not new. It's been around for a couple of years. It's just that it's being used and it was made popular by Facebook since the name changed. And basically what metaverse is about is talking about immersive experience. Right? It's just that today there's a lot more attention given to it. The difference between immersive experience now and in the past we were all playing games. We were all in this virtual world, right? There were we call it MMOPG, massive player online games. That was the metaverse, right? What has differentiated that metaverse with the metaverse today is along two areas. One, there's corporate involvement now. We have metaverse for corporates and we have metaverse for our personal gaming lives. And the other thing that's really exciting is this convergence of blockchain and cryptocurrency. Now it makes living, breathing in the metaverse something that's real. It becomes a digital twin of your physical life. So it's going to take a portion of your attention, of your energy in the future. So yeah, this is going to be very exciting for everyone moving forward.
Yeah, interesting there. And you talk about a portion of your time, right? Like there's a lot of people out there, the metaverse is going to take over and it's going to be your whole life. But you talk about a portion there. Can you go a little bit deeper with that around why how you think it's going to fit into our daily lives and our work lives?
That's a big answer for that particular question. So metaverse is going to be here to stay, whether you like it or not. And there's many reasons why. From a personal point of view, the future of jobs is going to be in the metaverse, right? And Sam was just telling me his kids spend a lot of time dressing up for the virtual world. So there is a big economy, new economy for Gen Zs that will be the future. So you want to communicate to Gen Zs, you need to know what is metaverse. You will look at a job in the next 10 years, it's going to be metaverse. You're looking at what stock to invest for your retirement. Those are metaverse stocks, all right? And the most interesting thing is that you will also see that there is a consciousness migration to the metaverse, all right? And because of this consciousness migration, because of these digital avatars, the amazing thing is, all of you here, I guarantee you, will have the experience of immortality. And that's called digital immortality. You will be here forever for the first time in your life.
Wow. Tony Tan, here in
You can quote me.
3030 and beyond.
Yep, it's here.
And so what is already kind of happening in this space? What's already in our daily lives that we probably don't know about, how the metaverse is being used, and how is it affecting us already?
I think the metaverse is going to grow. Currently, it depends on how you define metaverse. For Microsoft and Facebook, their metaverse is a very advanced concept, right? Where they see a whole world where your gaming and your work experience is merging together into a huge metaverse, right? So that kind of metaverse is still some distance away. But today, if we are looking at your kids are playing Fortnite, you look at all the concerts that's held on Fortnite, I think most of us here will not be in Fortnite, but the younger generations, they are. You see this metaverse is already taking root all over the place. It's just that the reality and the experience is different for each of you, right? So it is already here, but it's going to evolve very quickly, right? Especially when you have Apple, you have Microsoft, you have Facebook taking the lead. You will arrive very, very soon. The next 5 years, all of you will have different realities, all of you have different experience. When the five of us sit together, you know what? Our conversation is going to be very different. Because you ask me how is it affecting your life, I can tell you, your life will be segmented. There are some people who are living in the metaverse. Some people who are just spending a bit of time in the metaverse, but it's going to be different. That means the world will be totally segmented in the future.
You can hear the passion in his voice, right? So we've got loves the Metaverse. I had dinner with him the other night, and I think 3 hours we might have got. I think Sam and I might have got 10 words in for the conversation. It was good fun. Now we've got people in the room who come from banks. We've got some from working in broadcasting, education, technology. We've got those who are influencers. What sort of things do we need to start thinking about now when it comes to Metaverse and how that may help us in the workplace? What sort of conversation should we be starting to have?
Oh, that's really interesting. So from a personal perspective, right, I would encourage all of you to start thinking about the Metaverse, because if you have a virtual avatar, you're going to 100 times your influence out there if you are an influencer. Why? Because you are only, 5 by 8 every day and you have a daytime job. If you want to be an influencer, you want to reach out to a global audience, you need to replicate yourself. And the only way to replicate yourself is create a real digital twin of yourself that doesn't sleep, doesn't fall sick, that's down there talking to your audience 7 by 24 hours, serving them, selling them stuff. So I call it the AI-powered influencer. In fact, there's a word for this, it's called virtual humans. And it's already here. So if you have a virtual human, you are already a digital immortal, you're already 100 or 1000x your capabilities, right? So if you are an entrepreneur, you need to think about how does the Metaverse going to impact you? Where is the future going to be? What industry are you in? Can we think about all these concepts? Now, Metaverse is very big. We have cryptocurrencies, we have NFTs. Oh, that's another big topic. Now, all these things is going to change the world. How do you use NFTs to rebrand yourself, right? To bring value to your customers, to bring awareness, to bring excitement, because now you have a first mover advantage. So whether you are a business owner, whether you're an influencer, the Metaverse will have a place for all of you. Yeah.
Very, very good. Now, Tony, I haven't checked with you before, and I hope it's okay that I can dive into this. You've been working with a team around developing a artificial intelligence app called Epic AI. Do you want to share a little bit about what you're doing there and how that can shape corporate in the future?
Oh, that one. Sam, do you have a non-disclosure agreement? So, you see, today I think it's very important that we harness the power of artificial intelligence. Right? Artificial intelligence is here to augment what we have. And I have this thing called augmentation or the merging or the fusion of intelligence between human intelligence and machine intelligence. Right? It's not going to be one or the other, it's going to be this fusion. So why are we not harnessing artificial intelligence to power ourselves up, to make our life easier? So this concept of Epic AI stands for Exponential Presentation and Influencing Coach, is to be a pocket coach in everywhere you go. If tomorrow I got an important interview, I got an important presentation, I just can't call Sam in the middle of the night. I don't think he'll forgive me for that, right? And where am I going to get an audience for this, right? But I need to improve my presentation. I need to make sure that I get rid of those cobwebs because I've not been presenting for some time. If you have this coach in your pocket and you present against the artificial intelligence, and it can tell you exactly what's wrong with you. Are your energy level too low, right? Are you speaking too fast? Is your body language not congruent with your emotional response? I can tell you everything about you. And from that practice, you can improve yourself to ace that presentation the very next day, 7 by 24 hours. So this is what Epic AI is all about. It's here to augment what Speakers Institute is providing on their corporate training programs. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, up here on stage today, we actually have the virtual version of Tony Tan. If you'd like to meet the real version, he's at the bar. Tony, thank you very much for sharing your insights into the Metaverse and where things are moving from artificial intelligence point of view. Excellent. So, what a big start for the night. Lots of energy, lots of passion there. I love Mr. Tony Tan when we start to talk about the convergence of technologies and human beings and what possibilities there are in this world as well. So, which is really great. But what's fascinating now is I'm now going to bring up Tony's brother. I'm now going to bring up Tony's brother, and we're going to change the energy a little bit here. And we're going to look at, obviously over the past 2 years, we've probably had to deliver quite a bit of, we've had some challenging conversations and had to deliver some bad news. And hands up, anyone here, who here loves giving bad news? Yeah. Who enjoys sharing bad news? All right, so we're going to hands up. You're in trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, bringing you to the stage, sharing with you how to present bad news, Mr. Edwin Tan.
Yay!
Hey, thank you very much, Craig.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just would like to ask all of you all to think about this, right? During the medieval days, King Arthur and his knights in shining armor sitting around the round table. And during those days, when you want to pass on a message from one person to another, there's no email, there's no WhatsApp messages, no one's got any IG, social media, none. What do you have to do? You would have to go on horse riding from one place to another. So think about this. If you are at the battlefield, it is the final battle of this entire whole two kingdoms going at each other. Final battle, the battle has been lost. The commander tells the messenger, you need to take this message to the castle and tell the king and all his people in the castle to leave straight away. That's bad news, isn't it? Now, the messenger will go on horse riding, and then he gets off the horse and he goes to the castle and he says, I've got news! I've got news! He is going to the king to present bad news in such a manner, I've got news! You would realize that the message and the way he presented it is incongruent. No one presents bad news that way with such enthusiasm. He will likely have his head chopped off. So how do we really present bad news? How many of you need to present bad news every once in a while? Hands up. There you go. And as Craig mentioned, do you like presenting bad news? Not at all. So we're going to have a bit of a snippet today on how to present bad news. To a very large extent, it is just two things. It's either a 2-point or a 3-point. You see, perhaps some of you just came from a Valentine's date dinner yesterday, yeah? Two persons, we eyeball each other, and then, here's a drink, this is for you. What do we have there? There's a lot of connectedness. We speak to the person speaks. It's like a verbal tennis. I say, hello, how are you? You look pretty, and say, oh, you're a handsome man today. That's all you do. 2-point, right? Connectedness. Now, when we present bad news as leaders, what do we have to do? You need to have that strength and at the same time, kindness to your employees. You need to command that authority, yet connect with them. Also, you need to present yourself as really confident, certain, but also at the same time, lots of kindness. Leaders are made of this. You need to present yourself well and at the same time, know your people. So how do we get to 2-point to 3-point? All you need is to get your person that you're talking to, as you're presenting their bad news, to focus on something else other than yourself. Other than yourself. It can be anything. And tonight I'm just going to use an example of a report. Now, think about this, right? If you were to go to a medical examination, you're going to be seeing the doctor, and then the doctor is going to have to present to you your medical report. What does the doctor do? The doctor takes out the report, or the doctor takes out the x-ray, and he says, well, Mr. Teo, this is what you have here. The results ain't very good, and you can see here that these are the numbers that shows that you are pretty low in this particular area. And it probably means that you have to go through chemotherapy. Now, what did the doctor do? The doctor was speaking to the patient, but he was using the report as a focal point. This becomes the 3rd point. So what is the patient doing right now? The patient is not looking at the doctor because the news is coming from him, yes, but the patient is looking at the third point. So the patient is not thinking that the doctor is the one presenting that bad news, but their focus is here. I'm not the bad guy anymore. It's the report down here. This is your third point. That's the focal point. In the business world, this is what you want to do. Say someone commissioned you to do a report of the financial health of the company. The results didn't come back too good. But you don't want to be the harbinger of bad news. Am I right? Same thing. Do the report and tell, well, Miss Joan, what we can see here is that there are a couple of things that didn't go very well. These are the ones that we didn't meet the expectations. Some of them did, but these are the ones that exceeded expectations. Now, you then don't become the person who brings in the bad news. The bad news is on the report. So whoever your client is going to go back to his team and says, the report shows this. The report tells us that. It no longer is, Edwin told me this, and this is the bad thing. Edwin says this, and Edwin says this, this, and this. I become the bad guy. And that's what you don't want to do. So in a very short presentation earlier that I mentioned, it's really just about 2-point or 3-point. You don't want the person to become the one telling the bad news, but instead it becomes the report that becomes the bad news. All right? Now, just one final thing. You've brought him so low. Oh, it's just bad news. What I would suggest to you is this. After you brought him down, bring the person back up. Well, these are what we have done, exceeding expectations, but we know that this is something that we can do better, and these are our suggestions. And we will get ourselves back on track because that's exactly what we at the organization can provide you to do. Does that sound good? A 2-point or a 3-point presentation where the presentation allows you to take the focus away from you, but to go back to the third point.
Very good.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed all that. Thank you.
Let's say this. Let's say this. A big round of applause for Edwin. Edwin, stay up on stage.
Stay up on stage.
Up on stage. So Edwin's one of our lead facilitators here in Singapore, and I still remember the first time that we'd do a session called presenting bad news, and we've got all our presenters and they do it in a way that's quite nice, and then Edwin comes in first day and he's riding a horse online, right? And this is brilliant. So I absolutely love that he can bring his own authentic self, and that's something we love with our part of our team, is the diversity of the people in the team. And even though we might have a set of curriculum that we use, it's so important for us that people bring out their own personality and their own authentic self. And so I just really want to thank you, Edwin, on behalf of the team here, and looking forward to some more live events here in Singapore.
Absolutely. Looking forward to live.
And look, did that feel like bad news? I don't think it could ever feel like bad news coming from Edwin. Edwin, thank you very much. Give a big round of applause to Edwin. I think it's important in life. We went through so many years where everyone's teaching us, we must work on our weaknesses. We must focus on the things that we need to do better. But there was a long period of time where no one actually gave us and empowered us the importance of focusing on what we're good at. Yes, it's good to utilize our strengths to then bring up our weaknesses, but if we're always focusing on our weaknesses, our strengths are going to idle and we're just going to be mediocre. We talked about that relentless pursuit before. How can you use your strengths to have that relentless pursuit of your excellence and create greater gravity of leadership? Our next presenter started with Speakers Institute in India, and then a few years ago moved here to Singapore and has continued to grow. She has evolved from a program manager working in the personal development space to now being the general manager of Speakers Institute here in Singapore, and being an integral part of Speakers Institute Corporate, where she's a program manager and also a Gallup certified strengths coach. So bringing you a session now on strengths, please welcome Neha Wirvadaka.
What would happen if we looked at what's right with people versus what's wrong? That was the question Don Clifton asked. Don Clifton is the grandfather of strength psychology. Basis this question, he then led into the decades of discovery and studies into then creating the science of strengths, popularly known as the Clifton Strengths. The Clifton Strengths assessment is a performance-based tool that helps you to identify your natural talents and your gifts. Now, he really wanted to understand what made people successful, and that is what led to this research. There are other tests, other personality profiling tests out there, like Myers, Briggs, DISC, Enneagram, and you may have done some of them, or maybe most of them. But this one, by far, is my favorite assessment. And there are a number of reasons for that, which I will share with you in a while. But before that, I would like all of you to participate in one activity. So please make sure that you have enough space to stand, because that is something that you will need to do. All right, so get comfortable. Are we all ready?
Yes.
Are we ready? All right, excellent. So what I'm going to ask you is a question. And if you feel almost most of the times that you are this, then you need to stand up. So stand up if you are the one who keeps pushing the elevator button, reminding the elevator that you are there. Please stand up. Excellent, excellent. So we have a few people in the room. Very good. Give yourselves a round of applause. Please sit down. What that means is you have a strength likely to be called as an activator. Now, people with activator theme can be very, very self-starting and pioneer. But the blind spot of activator is that you can be coming across as impatient. The next one. Now, please stand up if you're that person who wants to talk to everyone on the plane, when you're on the airplane, in the lift, in the grocery store. Please stand up. Excellent. That's him and Sam. Very good. So thank you so much. Please have a seat. That may be your strength of woo. Now, what is woo? Win over others. That is a strength that you want to break the ice. You want to spread your social circle wide. Now, the blind spot of this strength could be you may be known as a social butterfly.
What a surprise.
The next one that we have, and I would like you to stand up if you're that person who writes to do notes, even on a weekend, even on a Sunday, even on a holiday, you are making to-do lists to strike it off. Please stand up. Oh, give it a round of applause. Oh, that's so many of us in the room. Excellent. Please have a seat. Now, if that is you, your strength is an achiever. An achiever is a person who likes to be productively busy. The blind spot of this strength is that you may come across as lacking a human connection. Now, the next one. Please stand up if you are that person where you have your closet color-coded and organized. Please stand up. Let's have you stand up. Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Well done. Have a seat. Now, if that is you, you are a maximizer who likes to take things from good to great. So now what we've noticed is that in all these questions that I asked you, at least one person stood up for each question, or maybe not. Because when Don Clifton was working on this psychology of strengths, he has actually categorized thousands of strengths into 34 themes. And when you do this assessment, you get your results in the order of ranking, in the recurring pattern of how you think, feel, or behave. Starting from your dominant talents to your least dominant talents. So like I said, Gallup shows that for each one of you, the chances of you having the exact same top 5 strengths in the same order is 1 in a 33 million. Yes, you heard that right. 1 in a 33 million. So the Singapore National Stadium, just to give you a context, the Singapore National Stadium can actually fit 55,000 at full capacity. Now, if you were to see that, thinking of 33 million, you would have to be 600 times the Singapore National Stadium to be able to find a common strength with someone. So that is how unique and differently you're wired. And that is why I feel that this assessment tool is the best one. Now, going on to the research, Don Clifton really wanted to focus on what is it that makes people successful. And so over 5 decades of studies that he did his research on really successful people. Leaders like you, entrepreneurs, business people, sports heroes, entertainers. Hundreds and thousands of research, study, interviews that he did to really find out what is that common trait, that common strength that makes them successful and where they are. But to his surprise, what he found was that there was no common trait, no common characteristic that made them successful. What he did find though was that these people had absolute clarity as to who they were, what their strengths were, and they had aligned their strengths to their business and to their personal life. And that is why they were successful. They had learned the art of maximizing their strengths and outsourcing their lesser strengths. And that is what is the beauty about strengths. So, now you've noticed that I've been using a lot of terminology like talent, themes, strengths. Have you ever wondered why are you attracted to some things and not to others? Why do you feel a certain way and not that way? The simple, powerful answer is these are your talents. Our talents make us unique. How unique? Nearly as unique as your thumbprint or your Face ID on your phone. And that is how unique and special you are. So now, how to turn your talents into your strengths is this formula that you see on the screen. Talent times investment is equal to strength. Investment is also taking the time to understand your strengths, applying your skills and your knowledge. Now, all that time spent together times your talent is when you have developed a strength. How will you know that you've developed a strength? When you're in a state of flow, that's when you have developed a strength. Now you might think, or you might be at work and you think, okay, let me put my head around for a couple of minutes of work and I'm just going to finish this quickly and get away. But before you even realize, you've been working for a couple of hours. And that's when you have developed a strength. And this can happen with anything. So another sign is that when people around you start to notice that you do things differently, that there is something special about you, and they start to question you, why, how, and you yourself feel that, doesn't everybody do that? But the answer is no. And that is when you have developed a strength. So, strength is this superpower that can be developed by investing time and learning about your talents. Today, I would like to encourage all of you to go ahead and explore and unlock your potential of your talents and then transform your lives into superpowers.
Please welcome to the stage Karen Tok and Delphine Ang. Now, so both of you very successful entrepreneurs. I will start with you, Delphine. I'm really curious. You know, you're running your own business, but you're part of a team and you get to see different corporates around the world. What are some of the things that we're seeing now from leaders around being more of an entrepreneurial leader?
So I would say that very often leaders are also entrepreneurs themselves, because you want to operate your business as if you own the business. The sense of ownership must come through because it's important to you how you want to serve your customers. And in so doing, you also want to treat your employees as your internal customers, as you are the creator of the culture of the organization. Likewise for entrepreneur, you are actually the person who set the tone for the organization. And you mentioned earlier on about setting the tone, setting the energy. And I like to give this analogy, which is, are you a thermostat or thermometer? Because if you're a thermostat, you go in and you set the tone and people will vibrate towards that tone that you have set. Whereas if you're a thermometer, you just go in and measure whatever energy there is in the room, there is in the culture. So you are that important person that is the key driver to the culture of the organization or even the business that you want to build up.
Beautiful. And for you, Karen, you know, when you're building a business, you know, what were some of the, you know, for you, what was your biggest lesson in being an entrepreneur when you're leading other people?
I had a startup stage, and then I had the scaled up stage. So that was the first 5 years was startup. And when company got to stability, then we had the scaled up. So we brought it to about 40 team eventually when we sold. So I would say that each stage had different challenges. So I think if I have to pick one now immediately, I would say the biggest challenge, the biggest learning for me will be learning how to lead my team. So it was quite a big struggle when I was trying to grow from 5 to 40. And we had like huge turnover. So I was like struggling with how do I retain staff? How do I manage the Gen Y? What does the Gen Y need? Like X doesn't know anything about the Y. So I had to kind of study that and work on that. So I think through that, I learned how to listen to different generations and also how to kind of, sometimes as a boss, that there is always a barrier you want to draw, like, okay, I'm the boss and you're an employee. So I can't be too close and then, otherwise the authority is crossed. So there's always a tough balance you want to create. And it took me a while. So I think I felt that I managed to eventually was to really cross that. And I realized that when I'm connected with my employee, they have more respect for me. So even if I ask for feedback, like, where do you think I should improve? Or if I asked for, or if I manage somebody who is so much better than me in a lot of area, then they would still respect me. So I think that my biggest lesson is really learning how to connect with my employee, I'll have to say.
And you know, as an entrepreneur or as a leader, you know, quite often you've got a big passion, you've got a drive, and you've got a vision, and you're moving there, and you're going fast. What did you kind of learn to do with your staff to make sure that they felt like they were part of going towards that vision, that they weren't just chasing you or running away from you, that they were actually there with you, leading the charge?
Good question. I think the biggest fear I find the employee has is they can't keep up with you. They can't meet the expectation that you want. So of course we were really small, and then we eventually, gone to 40 headcount, and we won 20 over awards, industry award. So my business was biotech recruitment actually. So I think they're worried that they can't meet my expectations. So my job was to make sure that I understand their potential, their gap. So then I'll try my best to kind of let them see where they could go, and that I know their gap, and that's really fine. And then from there, I would help them, give them steps to go. So we had Gen Ys are impatient to get promotion. And rightly so, right? So we created every year, my employee could get promotion. Every year if they meet certain requirements. So they could get promotion. So the recognitions is not just coming from increase of salary or the award, it's also very much from me shouting to the rest of the team that, hey, this person did this, look at this testimonial that brought in from this person. How amazing. Just telling people how good they are. I think just inspire them to grow. I think that's probably most helpful.
Very, very good. I really, really enjoy that. I think it's important to really look after that human being. Now, for you, Delphine, you've been able to see a lot of speakers who have been up on stage over the last couple of decades, and corporates are looking out for, what is the next big thing. For you, what sort of trends have you seen shift over the last couple of years in regards to what are corporates and leaders really looking for from speakers nowadays? What type of speakers, and what are they looking for?
Well, in the past, we tried to book a lot of main stage, big time speakers. And when you're on stage, what you're looking for is a very larger than life presence, and to make that very powerful, positive impression upon the audience. But now with COVID, there's no four walls, there's no stage. So you have to, connectivity with the audience, the engagement with the audience is a lot more important. Now, how many of you, when you're seeing someone on stage, it feels that person is so far away. It doesn't matter if he doesn't look at you or she doesn't smile at you. But when you're doing Zoom presentations, which is a lot more common now, you want them to look at you, to smile at you. It's as if he's speaking to many person, but he's speaking to you. You bring that person into your living room, sometimes into the bedroom, because the corporate space and the personal space has collapsed. And you want them to connect with you with that heart-to-heart connection. And you want them to feel as if, I hear you, I understand you, and I know what it's like sitting where you are, and I'm that near you, that close to you, although we could be thousands of miles away.
And are you seeing a shift in leaders' mindsets where they're not so focused on just being the CEO, being a leader, but they're actually thinking about, how can I continue to innovate and grow like an entrepreneur, think like the entrepreneur mindset?
The transition of going for big time kind of a speaker, entrepreneur kind of presentation, right now we're shifting more to the ability to connect with the individual one-to-one. And as a business owner, you're looking more for creativity, the curiosity, the ability to take risks. But if you're the boss of a big company, you're looking more at the numbers. The numbers count, and you will want to reward them based on the KPIs. Whereas if you're talking about entrepreneurship, you're looking more for the creativity, the ability to take risks, calculated risks, so that you can actually think ahead and be ahead of the curve than just toe the line. But if you want to encourage your employees to do better, to come up with innovative ideas, you got to give them more than extrinsic motivations, extrinsic rewards. You got to give them intrinsic rewards, for example, more autonomy, the purpose, and many a times they are drawn to you because you had that passion, you had that vision that helps them, that inspires them to want to be part of your team and to make a difference.
Yeah, we have seen a massive shift in the way that people want to serve and people want to innovate and create and make a better world, and we're seeing that really shift into the bigger corporates as well, where it's not just about creating a new product, making money, etc. It's about, okay, how can we create sustainability? How can we create innovation and growth to support that? Karen and Delphine, thank you very much for your time today. It's a real pleasure. And I've been working with them for nearly 2 years now, and I finally got to meet them in person this week. So it's been a real pleasure to see them.
It's real.
I am real. Beautiful. Thank you very much. Our shift to online the last couple of years, we've probably noticed that people's impressions online, sometimes good, but a lot of the times people go missing. They go missing in action. Where are they? They don't tend to show up. Quite often, their screens are turned off, mutes on, and they're hiding in the screen. But the first impression online is no different to the first impression when you're in person. And I'm sure as soon as you walked into 1880 tonight and you watched different people, whether it was with our group or ourselves, you were forming first impressions. And there's no better person to talk to you about now executive first impressions than Faireeq Hashim. Faireeq, big round of applause.
Good afternoon, good evening everybody, and I'm going to be talking about first impressions. So, how fast do you think it takes for someone to form a first impression? Anyone guess?
2 seconds.
Yeah, between 2 to 5 seconds. 2 to 5 seconds. First impressions are really important because it's the visual cues that your listener uses to shape you up, to see who you are in those 2 to 5 seconds. So we're all in this room, we're all in this venue, and unconsciously or consciously, we've already made our first impressions of each and every one of us. So this is why it's important to have absolutely excellent first impressions. I want to ask you, what is it that you see as a first impression when you meet people? Think about it. Or let's flip the question around and ask, what do you think people see in you before you've even started speaking? What first impressions are you projecting? So there are 3 areas that we're going to go into tonight. And they are your appearance, which I think is quite an obvious thing, your behavior, and your executive presence. So let's talk about appearance. Professional attire, absolutely. When you're in a corporate scene, wearing your professional attire will absolutely add to your first impression. It shows that you've come, you're ready, and you're prepared. And it also reflects on who you are and what you represent. Authenticity. Learning to be your authentic self. Authenticity happens when your words, your actions, and your behavior match consistently with your core identity. Think about it. You can't be authentic if you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe in your abilities and your skills. You're going to look stressed and nervous. That's not you. And people can sense fakeness a mile away now. So authenticity is a great first impression to exude. Online, yeah, well, we've had to work a lot online now these past 2 years. And think about your lighting. When you're on the screen, do we see your face? Because as humans, we connect with the face, facial expressions. If you're going to be sitting in the dark or the shadows, is that going to build trust? No. You know, we're going to think, why is he so dark? Why is the lighting? It's not going to work. So you want to show your face. You want to be well lit so we can see your eyes and your facial expressions. Then we have also behavior, the second section. Unhurried. Have you noticed that highly credible people speak slowly? They speak with a deliberate and controlled pace. It's really skillful. And they use fewer words. And the words they use are chosen carefully. Because you're all leaders in your own field. And leaders are unhurried. Leaders are not rushed. They make sure that they don't feel, they don't sound, or they don't look rushed. So keep your pace slow and consistent. That will bring up your credibility and your presence. Posture. There's so many times when we've been introduced to people and they're slouching or they're leaning. Having good posture will absolutely add on to your first impression. There was a research study done that successful people, one of the characteristics that they had was they had good posture. It exudes confidence. So make sure that you're standing straight when you're introducing yourself and you're speaking. Eye contact. Well, we've all heard the saying, your eyes are the windows of your soul. So when speaking, give eye contact. Have you had situations when somebody's introduced themselves to you and they're looking away? Hi, how are you? Yeah, fine. And you're thinking, I'm here, you know. So if you want to have good first impressions, think about eye contact, because that builds trust and it builds connection and respect. Smile. A smile goes a long way. Smiling is an international language. It means the same in every language. It makes you look friendly and approachable. And not only that, it lets out a whole cascade of positive emotions that will make you feel good. And it will make your listener feel good too and relaxed. But it's not just about relaxing, it's also changing the dynamics and the energy that you're going to present and express. You're going to be feeling and expressing warmth and connection. And your voice. Your voice is one of the most powerful ways to give and deliver a first impression, a strong first impression. Don't be timid, don't be shy, and speak softly. And you're like, excuse me, what did you say? And if you want to sound credible, if you want to sound serious and credible, your pitch has to be a bit lower. If you want to sound likable and approachable, raise that pitch in your voice. And you can record yourself and you can hear the difference. And we have executive presence. Appearance we've just done recently, earlier. And we have communication. Clarity. Make sure you're concise with your words. If you pronounce your words clearly and correctly, that's going to be a great first impression, especially when English could be your second language, or you could have a heavy accent. And what you want is when you meet people and you're delivering a message, you want them to capture and remember that message, that important fact, so that they can repeat it later, so that even a 12-year-old can articulate it back to you. So always remember to speak clearly and correctly. Then we have gravitas. When you want to know how to be able to lead and to know that people want to follow you, they're willing to follow you. People with strong presence, they're able to control their emotions and they're able to sense the emotions of other people around them. That's gravitas. They can inspire. They can instill people with confidence and motivation. So when gravitas is exuded in your personality, you will have that energy with your leadership skills, wanting to serve, and creating that safe space for the people around you to show you the respect and the admiration and the willing to work with you. Gravitas. So I want to ask you, what are the things that we've just spoken about that you think you might want to improve as your first impression? We all have them. So just remember that when you meet people and when you introduce yourself, first impressions are really important because it sets you up from the beginning to the outcome that you want.
This person, when you see them come up on stage, will leave not only a first impression, but a lasting impression. Our next speaker has written 11 books, 5 times New York bestseller, grew up in a small part of Australia called Tasmania. Spent a long time in Sydney and has made his way back to Tasmania. He's spoken on some of the biggest stages in the world with the likes of Richard Branson, Barack Obama,
Craig Johns.
He was my coach and still is my coach, but beyond that is now a business partner and he's co-founder of Speakers Institute Corporate. He's a speaker on Bounce Forward, Storyshowing, and People Follow People. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Sam Cawthorn.
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate it. Very quickly, can we actually just acknowledge Craig for actually putting on this event tonight? Yeah. Just awesome. Come on, let's give him a hand. Thank you, Craig. Wouldn't have happened. And it is really great to see you guys here as well. Just do me a favour, just turn to the person next to you. Do this for me, yeah? Just turn to the person next to you and just say thanks for being the best looking person in the room. Come on, do it for me. Come on, do it for me, yeah. Why not? So as you can see, I've got a story, and I think we've all got stories, but what we know about stories is actually stories can actually impact and influence another human being. You know, and ultimately what we're now seeing, particularly with AI and machine learning and the like, there's a lot of data, there's a lot of knowledge out there and a lot of information. And look, that will certainly connect with us and it'll inform us. It'll inform our logic. But the reality is, if you truly want to influence someone, if you truly want to get them across the line, we must learn how to evoke emotion. So today I'm actually going to start, first of all, with sharing with you a little bit more about my own personal story. I actually call it how we can all bounce forward instead of bouncing back. And we've all heard of this term, bounce back. Look how we're bouncing back from our crises, how we're bouncing back even right now from this COVID. But the reality is, it's not about how we used to be back in 2019, early 2020. It's actually about learning from the last 2 years and actually bouncing forward into what we can become. And I think we've all learnt how to bounce forward in our own personal struggles, but also right now we're all learning how to bounce forward in our professional lives as well. And what does the future look like, and how can we create that together? So I'm actually first of all going to start with a word that I love. And it's this word, the word decision. Get this. The word decision comes from the Latin word decidere, incision. Get this. Scission means to cut. That's what we know, yeah, decision. Scission means to cut. And get this, the word decide, decide, suicide, pesticide. The word side means to kill. So get this, the word decision means to cut off and kill. Now I believe that the world lacks leaders that make decisions. Why? Because we love keeping our options open. We love sitting on the fence. But you know what's really interesting? I believe that the world will actually reward those people that are making decisions now in order for a brighter future for tomorrow. And in saying that, I actually then wanted to start off with my very first story. I made this decision. In hindsight, it was a bit of a naughty, cheeky decision. I think we've all done that. But a few years ago, I won this award, Young Australian of the Year. It was the highest honour of any Australian. And they flew me from Tasmania through to Canberra, the capital of Australia. I'm about to meet the Australian Prime Minister, Kevin Rudd, at the time. But I'm thinking to myself, what can I do in order for the Australian Prime Minister to remember me? Because as you guys know, PMs probably meet hundreds of people every day as if they remember everyone that they meet. And I've always wanted to be that person that stands out, making sure that people remember that moment that they met me. So I had one of my prosthetic arms on, So I've got different type of prosthetic arms. I've actually got 8 arms all up. How many arms do you have? So anyway, I've got a flipper, for swimming. I've got a bionic arm. It's like the world's most advanced bionic arm. It's worth over 120,000 US, and I program it with my iPhone 12. It's awesome. Like it works via. They've got 7 motors in it. Works via Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Actually, get this. If you downloaded the app, you could control my hand. Anyway, so I was wearing a cosmetic arm on the day that I was meeting the Prime Minister of Australia at the lodge in Canberra on Australia Day. Now, my cosmetic arm looks exactly the same as my normal hand. So if I wore a long sleeve jacket on, which I was on the day, you can't notice at all that I've got a prosthetic. Anyway, so I walked up to the Prime Minister of Australia. All these celebrities were there. World's TV was there, and I went up to him to shake his hand. Obviously, he didn't notice at all that I had a prosthetic arm. As he went to shake my hand, I detached my hand, and my hand came off into his hand. And so, the world's media came in, taking photos, everything like this. The Prime Minister of Australia is just standing there, holding my hand like this, right? And in his Australia Day speech, the Prime Minister of Australia, he said this. He said, look, today we're surrounded by very significant Australians. We've got Aboriginal leaders, sports heroes, but nothing can ever beat the intro I had to Sam this morning. Because when you meet Sam, it's an extraordinary experience, because when you shake his hand, he'll leave his hand in your hand. And the Prime Minister of Australia, in his Australia Day speech, then looked over to me and he goes, and thanks, Sam, I'm still recovering from therapy today. I wanted to give you some actual evidence that this really did happen. So as you can see, there's Adam Gilchrist, a famous cricketer, and there's even the PM's wife, Therese. She's just cracking up laughing, right? And the Prime Minister of Australia is just handing me back my hand. It was certainly a very funny moment, that's for sure. But I think we all have moments in our life, Moments can be hilarious, quite funny, but then we have other moments that can be quite life-defining and life-challenging. My moment was a few years ago. I had a major car accident. It was my fault. At the time, I was working for the Australian federal government as a youth futurist, so basically predicting trends when it came to young people from that smoother transition from school to either further education, training or employment. They gave me a big company car and I was driving along, and for those people that have driven in, in places like Australia, there's long straight open roads, like literally you've got 100 kilometres and there's not a single corner on that road, and then there's hardly any traffic at all. And so I just had my car on cruise control. And as I was driving, I actually fell asleep. I was then told I veered over the other side of the road, and it was actually a 206-kilometre head-on collision with a semi-trailer truck. It was my fault. I fell asleep. Obviously, my arm was ripped off there at the accident. The entire right side of my body was completely shattered. 6 broken ribs, lacerated liver, punctured kidney. Both my lungs had collapsed. And basically, I remember I woke up then being on life support. And then my family then told me what had happened, that I'd actually had this major accident and I'd lost my arm. But I was in a state of denial. I'm thinking, this hasn't happened to me, it's okay. I mean, this really bad nightmare, it's going to end soon. Actually, it even takes me back to, even there in March when COVID sort of happens. At first I was in denial. It's going to pass over, everything's going to be fine. And so here I am waking up on life support and I'm thinking, no, I'm just in this really bad movie. It's going to end soon. I'm in this really bad nightmare. It's going to finish. For 2 days, I was in a complete and utter state of denial. And then realising what had happened, I remember going through pillow after pillow just simply from my tears. But not because I was sad for myself. I was more sad that my kids, my daughter, would actually grow up with a disabled father. I remember my daughter, she came into the hospital room and tears were just running down my face. She jumped up on the bed and she goes, Daddy, 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 did you have a car accident? And I said, yeah, I had a car accident. And she goes, and Daddy, Daddy, did you lose your arm in the accident? And I said, yeah, I lost it. I lost my arm. And she goes, and Daddy, Daddy, the doctors, they couldn't find it anywhere? She literally thought they just had to find my arm and sticker tape fixes everything, Daddy. But my kids have never said, Dad, I wish. Dad, I wish I had 2 arms. They've never said it. My son, he was actually born about 2 years after I had my car accident. And I actually had some major issues all over my body. And when my surgeon, actually it's quite funny, when my surgeon found out that I'd actually that my wife was pregnant, he came up to me and he goes, and Sam, you did lose a lot of things, but it's a good thing something still works. Anyway, so. So it was really interesting, my whole rehabilitation team, their entire focus for me was to get me back to that same job. Back to that same working environment. Back to as close as they can to what my life was before my accident. But something had changed, right? Not only physically, but also emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. I was no longer focused to be that person that I used to be. And a lot of the time we look at the good old days, how things used to be. But for me, it's actually more about, learning from this crisis, learning from what's going on here, and actually then bouncing forward into what we can become. So I'm going to give you 3 things that I bounce forward in to really help you on your own journey. Whatever you're navigating right now, it might be in your personal life, it might be in your professional life, because ultimately, on the back of these 3 things is actually what I've now built in Speakers Institute group of companies. Speakers Institute Corporate is one of the companies that I've now founded. So let's have a very, very quick look. Oh, very, very quickly, I just really wanted to share this word with you. And if you like, you can write this down. One of the most fascinating words in my life. And it's the word kairos. Get this. Kairos is the Greek word for time. So contrasting to chronos or chronological time, meaning ordinary or normal time, kairos time is laden with meaning and choice. So get this, the dictionary meaning of the word kairos is a moment within a moment. I love that. A specific moment where drastic change takes place. It's like that sliding doors, yeah? And in most cases, if you look at those moments, those kairos moments when you might have met your partner, those kairos moments where you might have actually seen a job advertisement and now all of a sudden you're working for the company 10 years later. That kairos moment when actually someone encouraged you to do something and now that's totally changed your life. And I think we all have these kairos moments in our life, and that certainly was a very significant kairos moment for me when someone came up to me after my car accident and they said, Sam, can you come and share your story at our school? Now, I didn't even know anything at all about speaking, personal development, coaching, training at all. I was a government worker. But a kairos moment was when someone asked me, Sam, come and share your story. I was still in a wheelchair. Come and share your story of your car accident at our school. And then the rest was history. Over the next few years, I then learnt this very first thing that I wanted to share with you, and it's this. I needed to learn how to master communication for influence. The best way how I could do that is, yes, get a coach, get a mentor, and then get quality feedback. And one thing now we've found in our entire curriculum here in Speakers Institute Group of Companies is our trump card is actually the way that we give feedback. If you want to upgrade this number one skill set on the planet, what is it? It's actually speaking in front of people. Yeah? So what we know is you do any Google search, the number one skill set on the planet is actually communication and speaking in front of people. You cannot learn it by observing. You can't learn it by looking at a screen, writing things down. The fastest and surest way that you can learn this is by you actually speaking and then someone gives you quality feedback. Most of our events are created and designed exactly that way. That's why we've actually seen phenomenal growth in our group of companies, because that is the core essence of what we do. So all of our students now get massive breakthroughs in how they communicate with confidence and with certainty and to influence other people. Why? Because we've now learned the actual secret formula into teaching people how to master communication for influence. The second thing I learned is very, very, very quickly, there's two key areas of communication. What we know is the content, what we say, and then the second thing here is the methodology, how we say it. Now, the content, what we say, is the easy part. These are the words that we say, and the majority of our preparation at the moment, where we spend our preparation whenever we are presenting, is in the content, what we say. But what we now know is it's not necessarily just about the content, what we say. It depends what research you look at, but at the moment it's anywhere between 20 to 30% of the influence and impact to the listener is actually the content, what we say, the words that we say. Which then begs the question, the methodology, how we say it, is up to 80% of the influence and impact to the listener. And that's everything from what you've already heard here today. All right, second thing I needed to learn here is this, is story showing trumps information. Now, we've all heard of storytelling, and I think what we do know about story is one of the key, that's how human beings are hardwired, isn't it? We're hardwired through narrative. That's why we love reading a novel, going to the movies. Stories have been shared through generation after generation, all the way since the beginning of time. That's how us human beings are hardwired, through narrative, yeah? Though my encouragement to you, if you really want to win someone's attention, and we've already spoken about our attention spans. If you really want to win someone's attention, share with them a powerful story. Now, my encouragement to you is share that story from a place of vulnerability. The word vulnerability comes from the Latin word vulnerabilius, which actually means an open wound. And so instead of you showing that you've got it all together, open a wound and say, hey, look, I've actually failed a few times in this, but I've learned how to navigate that. Let me share with you. That's the essence of story, really. And so I actually, though, believe that there is a difference between storytelling and story showing. Let me very quickly share this with you. An average storyteller will inform. That's where a lot of education stops. Teachers have been taught how to inform their students, whereas a good storyteller will persuade. Salespeople have been taught how to persuade their customers and their clients, whereas a great storyteller will inspire. I love inspiration, I go to the latest Marvel movie, watch Spider-Man, and I'm inspired by that. That's awesome. But then I walk out of the room to my ordinary, everyday, busy life, and I forget about that moment. Inspiration doesn't last. They say inspiration is like having a shower. You need it every day, yeah? So one thing that needs to happen is there needs to be a shift. And the shift we started to see around 10 years ago, everyone started to talk about visual storytelling. We did, didn't we? We said, let's use more images, let's use more videos. But the reality is we're still using this word tell. And we're sick and tired of people telling us what to do. We are, aren't we? Our parents tell us what to do. At school, our teachers tell us what to do. In the workplace, our boss tells us what to do. And now we're meant to be storytellers. But if I say, let me tell you something, compared to me saying, let me show you something, it lands totally different to the listener. I've suddenly gone from head to head and more heart to heart, yeah? Which then begs the question, an excellent story show will transform. What's transformation? Transformation means I've been informed, persuaded, inspired, but now I'm ready to take action. Now you've actually influenced them. But this isn't necessarily the tipping point. The tipping point is what we call transcendence. Have you noticed those times when you're hearing an amazing story, a true story, you're transcended in that moment. It's like an outer body experience. Have you noticed? It's like a sense of timelessness. You even forget where you are in that moment. And I believe the greatest story showers can transcend our thinking. And we now believe that we can teach this to other people. All right, third thing that I learned is this: people follow people. This is a really cool one, and this is actually based on my latest book, which was released last year. It's called People Follow People, and most of my books are published by Wiley, which is the largest business book publishing house in the world. But the theory is this: we now believe that we're living in a season of the profile economy, where again people follow people. If you look at just 5 years ago and look at all the various social medias, over thousands and thousands of followers, what we've found is this: is that just 5 years ago, in the top 1,000, 50% of them were human beings, but the other 50% were brands, logos, companies, organizations, governments, media, etc. But now what we're seeing today is now it's only 9% that are brands, companies, logos, organizations, government, and 92% human beings. People follow people. Like Elon Musk has over 600% more followers than what Tesla has. Yeah? People follow people. We follow Richard before we follow Virgin, of course. And so then that begs the question, in this whole era of the thought leader, are you creating the profiles within your organization? Those primary translators, which basically means you go out in the fringes, you find out all the information, what are the latest trends, and then you dissect that into bite-sized chunks. The media call it sound bites. Because if you're not building your profile within an organization, then a competitor organization is, and then all of a sudden everyone's listening to them and not you guys. Build a profile. This is your number one visual asset. Not your logo, it's your face. People follow people. And so these are the three areas that have really helped me in my journey, in and around from that first Kairos moment when someone said, Sam, come and share your story. I believe our stories are our number one trump cards. And again, guys, I just really wanted to thank you all for coming along here today. It's been our honour and our privilege to host you, and we would love for this moment not to be the last time that we actually get to connect with you, because I truly believe that even though, you know, whatever your journey is, I truly believe that the best is yet to come. Thank you very much.
And a big thank you to everyone here for coming along this evening and being able to see, just get a sense, hopefully you feel a bit inspired and maybe even transcended to make change, whether that be in the way you lead, the way that you make a first impression and connect with people, to however you even share your story and the power of storytelling and story showing. A quick word just to kind of wrap up here. For us, we really wanted to look at training people from a corporate aspect a little bit differently. You know, you might have been in those training sessions where there's one facilitator and there's 20 people in the room and you've just got one voice. You've got very little attention, you've kind of learned on yourself. We disrupted that a little bit. When we went online, we went, you know what? We're going to put 3 facilitators in a room of 18 people. We were going to go from doing hour-long content sections to 10 minutes to 15 minutes and then straight into a breakout room. Because as Sam mentioned before, the power of getting personalized feedback and that tight feedback loop is how we learn. when we get that mirror held up to us. And so that ability to be able to do that and also hear different voices to ensure that we can connect with every single person in their different learning style, their different memory styles, means that you can't just have one voice up there. So our approach is to go in as a team-based approach. And we've found the benefits have been very rewarding for those companies that we work with. And there's one or two in the room that have worked with us and continue to work with us at the moment and have seen those rewards. For us, we have combined communication with leadership, well-being and organisation, and really delve and even into client centricity. But the core centerpiece of all of this is communication. When it comes to leadership, it's your ability to communicate with other people. When it comes to well-being, it's your own communication in your head, plus also the communication that other people have with you that determines how positive or potentially negative you are as a being. Are you a well-being or an unwell being? When it comes to organisation, your ability to clearly articulate the vision, the DNA, the culture, where we're heading, comes back to communication. So for us, we feel that is so important. And as we go out to continue to inspire great leaders in your companies, in the community, even in ourselves, to really, really make a difference. You've got a flyer there. We're also going to give you a special treat. So when you leave, we're going to hand you a book of Storyshowing from Sam Cawthorn. So you receive that on your way up. But you've got time now if you want to grab a drink, if you want to talk to any of our team, connect with anyone here. This is your opportunity. But on behalf of all our team from around the world, thank you very much for coming tonight. Please be safe. Thank you very much.